Hello guys, welcome to the channel Ignited Medicos. Today we are gonna learn a part of competency PY 8.2, that is pituitary gland. Pituitary gland, which is also called as a hypophysis. It controls many aspects of the human physiology like birth, growth, puberty. It maintains the adulthood and it also takes part in many of the metabolic activities of the body. Now let's see the functional anatomy of the pituitary gland. First, the location. It is present at the base of the sella turcica, which is a small cavity present in the bone called sphenoid bone. It is having three lobes: anterior pituitary, which is also known as adenohypophysis. Second one is an intermediate lobe, which is known as a pars intermedia. Third one is a posterior pituitary, which is known as a neurohypophysis. Now let's look into the embryological development of the anterior and the posterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary, it is formed from the evagination of a rethex pouch. This rethex pouch is a outpouching of a pharyngeal epithelium, whereas the posterior lobe, it is developed from the central area of the hypothalamus. This, in the later stage of the development, the posterior pituitary gets merges with the anterior pituitary. Now let's note a point. Origin of the anterior pituitary, as we know, it is from the pharyngeal epithelium. It explains the epithelioid nature of its cells. So the anterior pituitary, it is purely glandular in nature, whereas when we see the origin of the posterior pituitary, it is from the neural tissue. Explains the presence of large number of glial cells. So it is purely neuroendocrine in nature. Let's look into the blood supply of the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is supplied by the inferior and superior hypophyseal vessels and hypophyseal portal circulation. Let's look into what is hypophyseal portal circulation. Generally, the anterior lobe of the pituitary is supplied by the superior hypophyseal artery. It forms a primary plexus of capillaries, and from which the hypophyseal portal vessels arises, and it forms the secondary plexus of the capillaries. From these capillaries, hypophyseal veins arises, and this drains into the jugular notch. This is the blood supply to the anterior lobe. When you see the blood supply to the posterior lobe, it is supplied by the inferior hypophyseal arteries and veins. Now let's look into the anterior pituitary lobe. The main hormones secreted by the anterior pituitary lobe are growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, prolactin, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and the luteinizing hormone. Other hormones are also produced in the anterior pituitary lobe. Those are beta lipoprotein, alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, and interleukins. These secretions can be categorized into three parts. One is the hormones of a growth hormone family. This includes growth hormone and prolactin. And second one is a glycoprotein hormone family. This includes thyroid stimulating hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and the luteinizing hormone. A third one is pro-opiomelanocortin peptides. This includes adrenocorticotropic hormone, melanocyte stimulating hormone, that is alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, and the beta melanocyte stimulating hormone, and beta lipoprotein and beta endorphin. There are cell types present in the anterior pituitary. There are two types of cells. One is a chromophil cells and another one is a chromophobe cells. Chromophil cells are of two types. One is acidophils, another one is a basophils. Acidophils are the cells which can stain the acidic dye, whereas basophils are the cells which can stain the basic dye. 5 types of chromophil cells are somatotrope, which secretes the growth hormone, lactotropes, which secretes prolactin, corticotropes, that secretes adrenocorticotropic hormone, thyrotropes, which secrete thyroid stimulating hormone, gonadotropes, that secretes luteinizing hormone, and the follicle stimulating hormone. Somatotropes and lactotropes, these are acidophils, whereas corticotropes, thyrotropes, and gonadotropins are basophils. These chromophobe cells are not produced in a very large amount, but they are having a few secretory granules. When you see the follicular stellate cells, these are also present in the anterior pituitary. Those are having a function of only secretion of cytokines, that is interleukin 6. Before discussing about the hormones of an anterior pituitary lobe, we generally discuss the hormones under the headings like source, structure, synthesis, regulation of secretion, mechanism of action, physiological actions, and its clinical correlations. Now let's look into the growth hormone. Growth hormone, which is also known as a somatotropin. It's generally secreted. Its general source is a somatotropes, which is a acidophils present in the anterior pituitary, as we studied before. And its structure, let's look into its structure. It's a peptide hormone which is having a 191 amino acids. It resembles to the prolactin because these both belong to the growth hormone family. Let's look into its synthesis. Generally in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, it is synthesized as a larger prohormone. This prohormone translocases to the Golgi complex, where it gets converted into the normal hormone, that is a growth hormone, and it is stored in the granules. Then whenever the secretion is required, at that time these granules secrete the growth hormone. Let's look into the regulation of synthesis. Generally its regulation is done by the growth hormone stimulating hormone and somatostatin hormone, which are secreted from the hypothalamus, and sometimes it is also regulated by the thyroid stimulating hormone. Generally growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates the growth hormone secretion, whereas the somatostatin, it inhibits the growth hormone secretion. Let's look how the TSH regulate the growth hormone synthesis. TSH regulate the expression of a growth hormone gene. So when this is expressed, there will be a secretion of a growth hormone. If there is any defect and there is a decrease in a thyroid stimulating hormone, this also leads to the decrease in a growth hormone secretion. Let's look into the regulation of growth hormone secretion. First thing is it's done by the hypothalamic control. As we know that growth hormone releasing hormone and somatostatin are released by the hypothalamus. Generally growth hormone releasing hormone stimulates the growth hormone secretion, whereas somatostatin inhibits the growth hormone secretion. Whenever there is increase in the growth hormone, it sends a negative feedback to the hypothalamus, which decreases the production of a growth hormone releasing hormone. So there will be an automatic decrease of a growth hormone, or else it sends a positive feedback to the hypothalamus, which increases the secretion of the somatostatin, which inhibits the growth hormone secretion. So there will be a decrease in the growth hormone. And the second one is a negative feedback control of a growth hormone secretion. Growth hormone which enters the livers and the other tissues. Mainly the liver. In the liver tissue, growth hormone leads to the formation of a stomatomadin C, which is also known as a insulin growth factor 1. Whenever there is a insulin growth factor 1, it sends negative feedback to the hypothalamus and decreases the growth hormone secretion, which automatically decreases the insulin growth factor 1, or else it sends a positive feedback to the hypothalamus, which increases the somatostatin secretion that inhibits the growth hormone secretion, so that there will be automatical decrease in the secretion of a insulin growth factor 1. And this insulin growth factor 1 also having a regulation from the growth hormone. Whenever there is an increase in growth hormone, Whenever there is increase in the insulin like growth factor, it sends a negative feedback to the growth hormone, so that there will be a decrease in the growth hormone secretion, and automatically there will be a decrease in a secretion of insulin like growth factor. Factors affecting growth hormone secretion. The factors which increases the secretion of a growth hormone are hypoglycemic condition, hyperaminoacidemia condition. Some of the hormones even increases the growth hormone secretion during stress, during puberty, and also even during the sleep, and the intake of some of the drugs also increases the secretion of a growth hormone. The factors which decrease the secretion of growth hormone are hyperglycemia and free fatty acids increase, and some of the hormones, and during obesity and during pregnancy there will be a decrease in the growth hormone. Growth hormone is generally secreted throughout the life. It is secreted to a minimal amounts in the child, whereas it reaches to the peak at the stage of adults. In the senescent stage it is decreased very much. Let's look into how the growth hormone secreted during the sleep. Generally it is in a very slow secretion while during the day. In nights it's having a pulsatile secretion, that too at a very deep sleep condition. Before entering into the mechanism of a growth hormone action, let's look into the JAK-STAT pathway. Let's assume this as a hormone and this is a receptor. A receptor it is having a three parts. One is a extracellular domain, one is a transmembrane domain, another one is a cytoplasmic domain, and it is having two subunits. This is one of the subunit which is present at the out of the cell membrane, which is present inside the cell membrane. Whenever the hormone comes and bind to the receptors, whenever the hormone comes and bind to the receptors present, which is present at the out of the cytoplasm, there will be a transpyrolation occurs at the subunit which is present inside the cytoplasm, and this subunit is known as a JAK, which is known as a Janus kinase. Here the phosphorylation occurs and it attracts and closes these two Janus kinase subunits, and it forms a homodimer. This dimerization is very much essential because for the receptor activation. Whenever there is a dimerization, there will be another component called STAT which comes and phosphorylates here, and after phosphorylation it moves towards the nucleus. In the nucleus it activates some of various genes which leads to the formation of proteins or the hormone synthesis. In the same way, the growth hormone comes and binds to the receptor which is present at the extracellular, so that it causes the dimerization of JAK, and it leads to the phosphorylation of a STAT, and this STAT stimulates the genes which is responsible for the growth hormone secretion, and it leads to the secretion of the growth hormone. And some of the other pathways are CHCR pathway, TKIRS pathway, and phospholipase C pathway. Let's look into the physiological action of the growth hormone. This is having a direct action on growth, bones, skeletal muscle, and the visceral. Let's look into the physiological action of a growth hormone. Let's look into its effect on growth. It generally stimulates the linear growth, and it is having a major actions on chondrocytes. Like it helps in the formation of an extracellular matrix of cartilage. By incorporation of proline into the collagen, it forms a hydroxyproline, whereas incorporation of sulfate into the proteoglycan, it forms the chondroitin. This hydroxyproline and the chondroitin combines to form an extracellular matrix of the cartilage, so that it increases the extracellular matrix of the formation. So it leads to the extracellular matrix of cartilage formation. It also helps in increase in amino acid uptake, increase in protein synthesis. It also leads to the synthesis of RNA. It also leads to the synthesis of DNA, and it also increases size and number of chondrocytes. And it is also having a direct action on the chondrocytes, like it helps in conversion of a progenitor cells or a stem cells of a chondrocytes known as a prechondrocytes. These prechondrocytes gets converted into the chondrocytes with the help of the growth hormone, and it also increases size and number of chondrocytes as we discussed earlier, so that it increases the growth of the epiphyseal cartilage by increasing the matrix, amino acid uptake, and the number of cells and the size of the cells. So because of the growth of these epiphyseal cartilage, it also leads to the increase in height. When you look at the action of growth hormone on the bone, it helps in stimulation of osteoblasts and the osteoclasts. Mainly it is having a predominant action on the osteoblasts. So and it also increases the bone forming units, though it increases the growth of the bones. When you look at its action on the skeletal muscle, it helps in increase in size of the skeletal muscle by increasing the protein synthesis, and causing the protein synthesis and hypertrophy of a skeletal cells, proteins and the hypertrophy of a skeletal cells. And it also promotes the activity of a satellite cells. These satellite cells are progenitors of skeletal muscle cells. So when growth hormone promotes the activity of a satellite cells, this leads to the formation of a skeletal muscle cells. Let's look into its action. Let's look into the action of growth hormone on the visceral organs. Generally, it stimulates the growth of the liver, kidney, heart, pancreas, and the intestine. It also stimulates the growth of the endocrine organs like skin and the connective tissue. And its action on pubertal and gonadal growth is it increases the height at the puberty, and it also increases the sensitization of the gonads to the action of LH and the FSH. So with the action of a growth hormone on the gonads leads to the sensitization of the gonads, towards the LH and the FSH. And it is also having action on the metabolism of proteins, carbohydrates, and the fats. When you come to the protein metabolism effects of a growth hormone, like it is having an anabolic effect. It increases the amino acid uptake, protein synthesis of the ribosomes. It increases the body weight, which occurs due to the nitrogen and phosphorus balance by the growth hormone. Due to the amino acid uptake, there will be an increase in size of the skeletal muscles or the organ which is uptaking tissue which is uptaking amino acid. Sometimes growth hormone even having the catabolic actions on the protein metabolism. Let's look into the effect of growth hormone on the carbohydrate metabolism. It is generally a pro-diabetogenic hormone. As we know that growth hormone which enters the liver, it stimulates the production of insulin-like growth factor. This insulin-like growth factor helps in the gluconeogenesis. This gluconeogenesis leads to the increased glucose. So growth hormone generally causes the hyperglycemia. Even growth hormone decreases the uptake of glucose by the skeletal muscle, so there will be hypoglycemic condition due to the growth hormone action on carbohydrate metabolism. When we look at the effect of a growth hormone on the fat metabolism, it increases the lipolysis, it causes the lipolysis and increases the plasma free fatty acids. So and it also leads to the ketogenesis, which leads to the formation of keto acids. As it increases the keto acids and the free fatty acids in the plasma, growth hormone provides energy during conditions like hypoglycemia and stress. Now let's look into the effect of growth hormone on electrolyte and water metabolism. It causes the sodium retention by decreasing the sodium and potassium excretion through the urine. Now let's look into the effects mediated through the insulin-like growth factors. Insulin is generally a polypeptide growth hormone. It is also known as somatomedin. The principal circulating somatomedins are insulin-like growth factor 1, insulin-like growth factor 1 and insulin-like growth factor 2. These are formed not only in the liver, these are also formed in cartilage and other tissues. Let's look into the insulin-like growth factor 1. This insulin-like growth factor 1, it is generally a polypeptide hormone which is having 70 amino acids. Its plasma concentration is 10 to 700 nanogram per milliliter. It reaches to the peaks at the puberty. In the fetal stage, secretion of the IGF, which is an insulin-like growth factor in the fetal stage, is independent of a growth hormone, whereas in the postnatal life, it is dependent on growth hormone. It mainly causes the skeletal and cartilage growth. When you look at the insulin-like growth factor 2, even it is a polypeptide hormone which is having 67 amino acid. It plays very important role in the fetal growth, not life, its growth. It's having a main action in the fetal growth. But when you see in adults, its action is only present in the choroid plexus and the meninges. Finally it is very important for the fetal growth. It is not that much important in the adults. Now look at the applied physiology of the growth hormone. When a growth hormone is secreted in a very enormous amount of quantities, that is a hypersecretion condition, in adults it causes acromegaly, whereas in children it causes a gigantism. In adults it is after the fusion of epiphysis, whereas in the children it is before fusion of epiphysis. Here generally the linear growth occurs. In gigantism, generally the linear growth occurs because there is no fusion of epiphysis. After the fusion of epiphysis, there will be no linear growth. So there will be increase in width of bones, muscles, etc. Now let's look into the acromegaly. Acromegaly, which is enlargement of peripheral parts of the body. Causes of the acromegaly or etiology of the acromegaly. It is caused due to the tumor of the somatotropes. Somatotropes, which are present in the anterior pituitary, the cells, chromophil cells of our somatotropes. Even the exterior pituitary, which causes the acromegaly or increased hypothalamic growth hormone releasing hormone secretion. This is generally occurred in the conditions of a hypothalamic tumor. Whenever there is a hypothalamic tumor, it leads to the hyposecretion of the growth hormone releasing hormone, which leads to the hyposecretion of a growth hormone, and it leads to the acromegaly. Tumor of the somatotropes is also sometimes associated with the lactotropes, which leads to the increased secretion of prolactin. One of the most important feature of the acromegaly is enlargement of the acral parts. Acral parts are nothing but hands and the feet. In this, there will be no linear growth in the acromegaly. There is only the width, increase in width of the bones and muscles. The second feature is prognathism, which is nothing but a protrusion of lower jaw. And the third feature is a acromegalic fishes, where there will be a increased growth in facial bones. And another few features are increased body hair, osteoarthritis, glucose intolerance, gynecomastia, and during the lactation also increases in the acromegaly, and in the bitemporal heminopnea is one of the feature of the acromegaly. There is another feature known as a visceromegaly. Here the size and function of viscera are increased. And another another effect of this is visual defects. This is caused whenever there is an increased tumor in the pituitary. This tumor enlarges into the sella turcica. Whenever this enlargement in the sella turcica, it compresses the optical chiasma, and there it causes the headache. So because of this, there will be some of the visual defects. Management of acromegaly is done by CT scan and MRI scan. And another one is estimation of hormones. Let's discuss about the another clinical condition of hypersecretion of a growth hormone, that is gigantism. Gigantism generally occurs in children before the fusion of a epiphysis. Let's see the causes or etiology of gigantism. One is the pituitary tumor, another one is a hypothalamic tumor. In this pituitary tumor, there will be increased number of somatotropes, which leads to the gigantism. Features or all the features of the acromegaly except acromegalic phases. Management same as that of the acromegaly: CT scan, MRI scan, growth hormone level, and the surgery. Let's look into the clinical relation when there is a hyposecretion of a growth hormone, that is dwarfism. Dwarfism etiology or hypothalamic failure or a pituitary failure. Whenever there is a hypothalamic failure, there will be a decrease in growth hormone releasing hormone and a decreased growth hormone. And same condition when there is a pituitary tumor, there will be a decrease in a growth hormone secretion. Even whenever there is a decrease in insulin like growth factor synthesis, it causes the dwarfism. It is known as African pygmus. Whenever there is a decrease or unresponsiveness of growth hormone receptors, that is called Laron dwarfism. Pituitary dwarfism is growth hormone whenever there is a growth hormone deficiency, it causes the pituitary dwarfism. Etiology of the pituitary dwarfism is decreased muscle and total body mass, and the mental power relatively remains normal. It is diagnosed by the low level of GH and the insulin like growth factor 1 in the plasma. Its treatment is it is treated by the administration of a growth hormone. Let's look into the another hormone of anterior pituitary lobe, that is a prolactin. Prolactin, which helps in the milk synthesis, and it's influenced by the development of mammary gland, reproductive functions, and immune responses. Sources are lactotropes. It increases during the pregnancy, lactation, and the estrogen therapy. Structure: it is a peptide hormone which is having 198 amino acids, and it is very similar to the growth hormone because both belongs to the growth hormone family. Now let's look into the synthesis of a prolactin. First, prolactin is present in the form of proprolactin, which is then converted into proprolactin and then converted into the prolactin. Prolactin is generally stored in the granules of the lactotropes and are released into the circulation whenever there is a need of a prolactin. Now let's look into the regulation of secretion of the prolactin. Prolactin secretion increases steadily in the later parts of the pregnancy. In the later parts of pregnancy, there will be an increase in prolactin. Secretion of a prolactin is very much related to the estrogen. It doesn't cause any secretion of prolactin, but it increases responsiveness of lactotropes towards the stimuli which causes the prolactin secretion. Now let us look into the factors that increases the prolactin secretion. One is the prolactin releasing hormone during the pregnancy, during breastfeeding, estrogen therapy, stress, sleep, angiotensin II. Effects of prolactin on reproduction. In case of the females, whenever there is an increased prolactin levels, it inhibits the hypothalamic release of a gonadotropin releasing hormone. Whenever there is a gonadotropin releasing hormone decreases, the concentration of a LH and FSH also decreases. This inhibits ovulation, so this causes amenorrhea. This is a common condition in a lactating woman, which is known as a lactational amenorrhea. Whereas in males, it decreases spermatogenesis. Effect on immunity. Prolactin is also synthesized by the immunocytes. Immunocytes are increased in the mother during pregnancy. It is reported that prolactin brings the immunological balance required for the acceptance of the fetal tissue to the mother. So it brings the immunological balance to the mother for the acceptance of a fetal tissue. Effects on liver. Increases the synthesis of synlactin in the liver, which is structurally analogous to somatomedin, whereas functionally analogous to prolactin. So prolactin also helps in the growth. Thank you.